Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here visiting, my name is Wade Thomas. I'm the owner of Black Tie Barn Candle Company. Also, I run this YouTube channel and several other platforms out there to help other candle makers in the industry, whether they've been here for a while or just getting started. So if you're not already subscribed and you're interested in learning more about candle making, running a candle business, making wax melts, feel free to go ahead and subscribe below. Don't forget to hit the like button on this video. That really helps me out. I really appreciate you all being here. And let's talk about today's video. So we're going to do something I've done a couple times on the channel so far, but I don't do it a ton. And that is I'm basically going to walk you through a quick shortened down time lapse of making a few of my Christmas wood wick candles. Now these are made in a white tumbler, about 11.5 ounce jars. They net weight out to about 9 ounce worth of candles. They are wood wick candles. I carry both wood wick and cotton candles. These ones are specifically wood wick Christmas candles, and they're in my white tumblers. At the time of this recording, it is a couple months after Christmas, so it's kind of an odd time to be releasing a video like this if you're kind of live with my content as I post it and you stay current on my videos. But because Christmas just hit, I had a lot of you all reach out to me just curious to see me making some of those candles. So I'm going to go ahead and go through a video. Like I said, it's a shortened down time lapse of making just some small batches. I'm going to make a couple different batches here, and I'll walk through it as we go through the video, explain what I'm doing. I'll put some notes up on the screen as well. Basically just walk you through my process. And again, this is a small batch. I think one of them I make 3, another 1 or 2 cents I make 3 or 4 candles. So these are not large batches by any means. These are very typical size batches that many of you would be making, especially early on as well. So hopefully you find this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments or any feedback at all, I'd appreciate it. Just go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Go ahead and subscribe if you're interested in more content like this. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start here with 4 of the white tumblers that I'll be using, and I'm going to be starting off with a mistletoe batch of 4 mistletoe candles. So the first thing I'm going to do is just lay out the jars, and you'll see what I'm doing here is I've got a template for a wood wick that I use that fits these jars perfectly, and that way I just cut down to size the size of the wood wicks that I'm going to need. It's just a little more economical to buy sizes of wood wicks that can cover multiple jar sizes rather than to buy them individually cut for your specific jar, but that's totally up to you. So anyways, I've pre-cut all of these, and the reason I do that is I have used this wax in these jars long enough that I know how much it's going to shrink, and so I know exactly where to fill these, and so I can pre-cut. I would not recommend doing that if you're just starting out with wood wicks. You're going to want to take your time learning how your candles settle up before you do that. So I would recommend just putting your wood wicks in first, full size, then trim them after they've settled and hardened. But for me, again, I know my wax well enough that I've been doing this long enough. I know how much the wax will shrink, and so I pre-cut mine. Then you see I put them in the tabs here, and I'm using Wicks stickers, and I go ahead and secure them to the bottom. Now I'm going to go and weigh out the wax, and I've already poured the wax in here. You'll see me add the wax in future batches, but in this case I just went ahead and cut to save some time right to the wax being in the container. Here I'm adding a little bit of UV inhibitor, that's ultraviolet inhibitor. I talk about this in other videos on the channel if you're interested in checking it out, but I use 1/2 teaspoon per pound. And that is just to help delay the amount of fading that goes on with the candles when it's exposed to UV light. And then here, obviously you would not stir this quickly. I'm only stirring this quick as I sped up part of the video. And here we're going to add the liquid dye. And the amount of liquid dye I'm adding here is actually 19 drops of Hunter Green and Key West Green for this size batch. And that is going to get me that mistletoe color that I'm looking for. And again, you wouldn't want to stir too fast like I'm doing in this video. You want to stir at a nice, slow, even pace. You don't want to introduce too many air bubbles or anything like that. And I'm always keeping an eye on the temperature. I want to add my oil around the 180 mark. Somewhere between 180 and 185 is typical. Depends on the wax I'm using. And you'll see me, again, talk about other waxes in multiple videos. The particular wax I'm using in this one is a Parasoy, about a 70 to 30% Parasoy blend. And then once I reach that temperature, I will go ahead and add that fragrance oil. Like I said, about 180 degrees or so is fine. Again, there is a lot of argument about what temperature to add your oil, but it just depends on the wax you're using. So I would recommend just checking out other videos or doing your research on that. But I do add it about 180 here, and again, I'm speeding up the video. blending that in while keeping a constant eye on the temperature. That's really, really important because temperature is very critical to get to keep things consistent when you're candle making. And then we're over at the pouring table, and again, I'm just using kind of a small ad hoc pouring table here for the purpose of this video, but I fill them up most of the way, and then I'll go do that in each jar, and I'll show you in each one of these all the way through, and then in the future batches that I do the other scents, we'll kind of speed that up as well. But you could see that I leave just a little bit of room in each one. I just want to make sure that I've got enough wax to go around evenly. My calculation should be spot on. I'm using a recipe. If you're curious what I'm using to keep track of my recipes, it's called Crafty Base. Check it out. I have a whole video overviewing Crafty Base if you're interested in seeing what it can do and how it can help you in various ways. But my calculations are pretty exact, and as long as I did not mess those up whenever I was making the blend itself, then I should be good to go. So then I go top them all off, and you'll see I'll go right up to the top of the wick. Normally you wouldn't go that high, or you'd want more of your wick sticking out when everything's all said and done. But again, I know how much this wax is going to shrink, so when they're done, it's going to be about perfect. Moving on to the next batch, and I'll just set those aside. We'll come back to those later. You'll see me lid those, label those. But this next batch is going to be blue spruce candles. So once again, I'm just going to wick these up. This is, I believe, the same wax type for this case, and actually the same width as well for the wick. I'm using a 0.04 5/8 width wood wick from Wood Wick Co. So I'm going to get those pre-tabbed again, go ahead and get them secured with the wick stickers to the bottom. You can use anything you want. I use the wick stickers. They've always worked well for me. As long as your jars are clean and the bottom of the wick tabs are clean, you shouldn't have any issues. And here we go. I'm going to add the UV inhibitor again. Now you might be wondering why I'm adding these in jars that are not transparent. They're opaque jars, but they can still be damaged by UV light, especially if they're sitting on shelves or someone leaves the lids off, things like that. And for consistency reasons, again, I mentioned this in other videos, I like to use the same materials in all the products just for consistency of my process. Here I'm adding 6 drops of Summer Breeze liquid dye and 3 drops of Hunter Green liquid dye. And again, that is for this specific batch size, which is 3 of these candles. Get that dye incorporated in. I usually add UV first, dye second, and then I will add my oil. So I'll heat my wax up to about 195 degrees, get the additives and dye added, and then I add the fragrance, like I said, between 180 and 185. For most Parasoys anyways. Just weighing out the oil there. Make sure you tare your scale once you put your pot or whatever's on the scale. You want to tare that to 0 before you add your elements, so your measurements are accurate. I go ahead and incorporate that in. Once again, stir in super speed motion. Although again, you normally would not want to do that. It's just sped up for the video. I like to keep an eye and test my colors. Take a quick look at it every once in a while. Make sure I didn't mess anything up. If you're doing a lot of batches or a lot of things at once, it is easy to mess up. So just take your time and keep your process as consistent as possible. Here I'm going to go ahead and pour those jars the same way I did before. I'm going to fill them up most of the way. And then you can see that I top them off. And in this case, I'm covering the pan. Now, why am I pouring in that pan? For a couple reasons. It helps them cool a little bit more slowly, but also keeps your surface area clean. That is not my normal pouring table, so I didn't want to make any messes. And then I cover them to keep dust and debris out, as well as, like I said, slow down the cooling process, prevent cracks and sinkholes and things like that. It also can help with jar adhesion. This last one is a Fraser Fir candle. It again is with a Parasoy of 70%, 30%. I don't show the labeling of this one at the very end. For some reason I forgot to record while I did that, but I'm still showing you the making of the candle itself. You can see I added the fragrance oil first in this case, and the reason is the temperature dropped a little bit more quickly on me, and I really want to get the fragrance oil in consistent temperature every time. Then I go ahead and add the dye in, and again, this is a Fraser Fir. It's very similar looking color to the Mistletoe, but it's a little bit more of a bluish tint as well, rather than the Mistletoe that's kind of a rich green. So you can see it's kind of hard to explain the color. It's a little more obvious when it's set up, but it's just more of a palish green color. And then here we go, filling them up. Like I always mention, with my pre-cut wicks, I go right to the top. But again, you would normally have more of your wicks sticking out, and then you would trim them up once the candle has settled. Cover them again, and then I let them cool, and then later I come back, and here we are going to just apply the warning labels. I use both custom warning labels, and I also have pre-made ones just in a pinch, like I was in this situation. I had ran out of my pre-made ones. So just applying a standard default warning label. As long as you've got a warning label, that's all that's really important. And on these smooth jars, it's really nice. They go on very easily. So you can see that is the mistletoe and the blue spruce candles there. The color's a little off, and that's because of my camera more than anything. Showing you the label there, I go ahead and label these. I like to have my wick, the whitest part of the wick showing where I put the label. You'll see that there. I just think it looks a little nicer. I don't think it really doesn't obviously really matter, but aesthetics are important. And then we're going to apply the mistletoe. The mistletoe, the true mistletoe color is much more green than it looks like there in the camera. Kind of speed this process up, just showing you applying these labels. Again, I've kind of been doing it so long now that it's pretty easy for me to get them where they need to go. That's a finished look at the candles there. You can see how the wax did shrink in a little bit and leaves the wicks the perfect height on the top. Go ahead and lid them up with these black lids. And then, like I said, then they're ready to go. I set them on the shelf and they're ready to send out with orders. So that's really it to this video, guys. Very quick one. I just wanted to show you an overview, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. There's the finished projects right there. Blue spruce and mistletoe coming up. And I appreciate you guys all for stopping in and taking a look at this video, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.